Hello, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am Lionel Santore, and I just want to welcome you to this new video on the Italian game. So, the Italian things that I actually learned when I was studying chess at the Quatema Chess Academy, which is actually closed down now. Very sad. But I am working on opening up my own chess academy, but it takes time. I thank you guys for watching these videos. Man, you motivate me to actually keep making them, which means that you are actually studying chess. Please go down to the description below. There is a link for you to join chess.com. It is a subscription service, but there is a free version whereby you can play chess with anyone around the world. But you can excitingly challenge me and then actually see how I play, how I go about the game, and then you'll actually maybe find it better to engage in these videos that I make. Okay, on your right there, you will see the chessboard, the white pieces and the black pieces. We're gonna go into uh, understanding the concepts of the Italian game. The Italian game is one of the few openings that, if you were to start learning chess, or if you were to maybe buy your own chess book, your first chess book, I'm sure one of the first openings or the very few openings that they'll teach you. Language openings, are very, very, very important, especially if you're going to go or you want to go into playing chess professionally, making a living out of chess. Knowing language openings, will really, really help you understand the game in terms of exploring your creativity. The more language openings that the more creative that you can be, because you can mix it up. You can try and play the Italian game, mix it up with some Spanish opening, or like there's a very few variations that you can learn, which is some of the things that we are actually going to learn in this video. So based on the chess board that we have, the Italian game normally goes, it starts with the pawn on e4, right? Then black will respond with e5. Then your response would be to attack that pawn, right? Then black's response would be to defend the pawn, right? Then after that, the Italian game is completed when you play knight to c4, right? This then on the board, as you can see, is the many variations that can be played after this knight c4 by both black and white, But let's go into this thing step by step. We are going to cover, let's say, four of these Italian game variations, and then I will do a mini part series which tries to cover all of the variations and everything that you can find uh, within the Italian game. Okay, the very first variation that I am going to share with you guys is called the classical variation. So, like I said, Italian or language openings, are really, really important for classical chess. Long games, so much theory, precise movements, like basically if you or your opponent is not playing the line, you're basically losing. You understand? You're basically losing, especially in a classical game. But in blitz, blitz or rapid, mistakes usually happen because there is a time factor there. You need to make a move in the quickest time in order to not lose actually on time. So this is a classical variation. This is a variation that you need to learn, especially when you are playing classical chess. So, like I said, e4, knight f3, knight c6, bishop c4, bishop c5. You see, what happens here is basically a copycat. So whatever attack that you are preparing for, black will respond and try and see that, okay, what if I do the same attack? How are you actually going to defend that? But remember, you have the upper hand when you're playing white. You always play first. Right? And when we are attacking, it's so important to make sure that the attackers are more than the defenders. If the attackers are more than the defenders, then your attack will be a fruitful attack, and you will actually be able to complete it and put your opponent at a disadvantage. Right now, we have We have knight f6, developing the knight, getting ready to obviously castle. Now we attack the center. In language openings, all of these guys, they understood that a basic foundation in the center, you know, gives you the upper hand in actually winning the game, especially if the game maybe is going to end while it is in the middle game, right? As you can see now, the attackers are more than the defenders, right? So this is why black's only option is to retreat, right? So now black decides to capture in the center, right? Capture back with your c pawn. Okay, what's going on now? You capture back with your c pawn. Okay. Now what happens? Black has a choice. If black decides to capture in the center with the bishop, then black is going to be a piece down because your knight or your queen can recapture. And then after all the capturing has been completed, then black will be a piece down. Yes, and you will exchange one piece. The other piece that was exchanged for a pawn. So it's basically a stupid thing to do. Don't be stupid when you're playing chess. So black decides to check your king. You defend. Black says, okay, let's exchange the black bishops. Now you come in with the knight, right? Why you coming in with the knight is obviously continuing development. You know, development is important when, especially when you are playing white, because you are the attacking player, and black has to always be defending. Because if there's a time in the game whereby you give black a chance to attack you, and then you obviously maybe there is some disadvantage there. Now, black strikes back in the center and plays like you have some options here. You can capture and then you can recapture, but then the attackers are not more than the defenders. So you really need to be careful here, especially if you're playing with a very experienced player. Checking the rating of your player, you understand? I think it's important. I always ask myself, why do they write the rating of the player? Especially when you're playing tournaments, they write the rating of the player. It's like they notify you that okay, this guy knows what he's doing, or he does not know what he's doing, or this guy is not sure, or this lady maybe is not sure of any move, because the rating, it typically speaks to the strength of the player, right? Especially like for players that amongst the 1800s, the 1600s, you know, these players are normally very, very strong players. So you need to be very careful when you're playing with these players, right? But I say never underestimate anyone. If you go to my chess.com profile, you will see that I have beaten some high level players. You know, I've beaten 1800s, I've beaten 1900s, I've beaten 1600s. You understand? And that was because I think when they looked at my rating, they thought, okay, they can just do whatever they want because maybe I don't know what I'm doing. But because they are not subscribers of Lionel Chess on YouTube, you know, they made a very, very stupid decision in doing that because I actually studied chess with you guys, just like we're doing now in this video, and I actually capitalized on the mistakes that they did. Classical games is actually about that. You know, it's actually about capitalizing on the blunders that your opponent makes. Okay, so let's try and finish this variation. Okay, we're gonna go and capture the e pawn, then um, black captures with the knight, right? As you can see there, even if you do capture, black can recapture, right? So you castle, king safety is important, right? So black does the same, king safety, rook e1. That was expected. If black had not castled, the rook e1 was probably the best move. Queen pinning the knight, right? h3 trying to get rid of that bishop. The bishop retreats. And then, as you can see here, we have a pretty standard game, you know. Everyone is in a good position. There's some pieces in the center. Most of both the opponents' pieces have been developed. There's some king safety here. There's some king pawn structures, you know, that are very, very good. So this variation, you know, you would really need to study it. It was like that time when Magnus Carlsen was asked, you know, how is he so good? You know, it's because he studies these kind of games. You know, he studies these long games. You know, he's trying to understand. Okay, when this game was played, why did this opponent move in this manner, or why is even this the classical variation? You know, this when it says classical variation, it means that at a given point in time, when a game was played with a very long time frame, two players decided to play this in this manner, and this was the best possible option at the time for both. Understand? I'm sorry about that, guys. Don't know what's going on with my setup, but it keeps freezing. I think the internet is slow or something. Maybe there's something wrong with my tower. I don't know. But then I think we should move on to the next variation, which is gonna be the classical center attack variation. Again, what I'm trying to do here is that I'm trying to get you to understand these classical variations, you know, understanding the basic theory behind it. Because let's say you're playing blitz and you play the line perfectly. I think that you should win the game, you know, because this was by far the best possible moves at the time for both players when this thing was studied. You understand? So let's just go into it. I want to start e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, knight e4, knight c5, c3, knight f6, d4, e captures d4, b4. Okay, this is very interesting. Remember, in the last variation, black was given an opportunity to give a check, yeah, and then exchanged the black bishops, right? But now maybe this player is like, okay, me, I have plans for my black bishop. Yes, and I like it on the diagonal because if the king is going to castle kingside, the black bishop put on b2, it's deadly. You understand? It's sniping. It's hidden because it's so far away from the board that you can forget about it if you are the black player, especially in tournament situation whereby you're focusing on the win and then you're not seeing or trying to understand the psychology or the plan of your opponent, right? So we have bishop b6, we have e5, advancing the pawn, we have d5, right? Attacking your own bishop. We capture the knight. Obviously, it's looking that, okay, even if you do capture my white bishop, I'm going to mess up your pawn structure there on the king side, and then king safety is now going to be a problem for black. So black is like, okay, either way, whatever you do, you know, it doesn't really matter. You can capture if you want, right? Just do whatever you want, okay? Then white decides to give a check, right? Now this is very interesting because if white decides to block with a piece, white is going to lose that piece because there is a pawn there on f6. Right? So black decides to defend with uh, the bishop, right? Okay. White decides that, okay, I'm going to attack another piece while I'm threatening, you know, your pawn structure there on the king side. So Now white has some decisions to make. Like what do I do? Do I protect him? Do I mess up my king side and recapture that pawn with the pawn, or do I capture with the queen and then I sacrifice that knight on c6? Right now, you have some decisions to make. Remember, when you are playing a classical game, you must always take your time. Take your time. Really think about your options. Think. Remember Lionel Chess. What would Lionel Chess do? What did the video say that I must do? You have time in a tournament. I'm sure I think it's 60 minutes per move or something like that. Very classical games, very long. So you have time to actually think about the next move. Understand? Best move here for black is to retreat the knight, because that pawn that's there on the king side, it can be recaptured even though the the pawn structure is at risk at being good. Okay, then white goes for it, captures on the king side, trying to mess up the pawn structure and win a new queen with promoting. Obviously, black is going to try and attack that pawn. Now you capture in the center. Black recaptured. This is very interesting. This is very, very, very interesting. Why do you think white did that? Why has now suddenly white decided, okay, let's exchange some pieces? You know, you can pause the video, you can leave a comment below. What's going on here? Yeah, because white, black, sorry, can recapture that piece, right? And that pawn is gonna be next. But there must be something that white sees that we don't see. Black captures the knight, bishop b2. Now, bishop b2 is what white saw. That okay, I need to protect that advanced pawn. That pawn, one mistake black does, that pawn advances and becomes. This is why it is so important to learn the classical games. Classical variations, they teach you a lot about chess principles, openings, king safety, and all of the things, or all of the tools that you are going to need actually when you are going into, especially chess tournament. Understand what I'm saying? Okay, this is another variation of the Italian game. We're just gonna go into um, the second last variation before we stop this video. Okay. Now we are gonna do what is called the fried liver attack. Okay. So the fried liver attack, is normally played if you're a very aggressive player. You like taking chances, you like risking, you like putting your opponent's emotion on the edge. You understand? Because you're there, in their face. You're attacking, you're capturing pieces, you're exchanging, you're destroying pawn structures. Understand? Which is what I think a person that plays white should be doing. You understand? You should know how to defend, obviously, safety and all those things, but you should also know how to attack. You know, Knowing and learning how to attack is so, so important as a chess player, because that's what's going to get you to win more games. Even if you're playing black, you can say, by the time your opponent maybe plays a defensive move like castle, you understand, and then it's your move. Now it's your time to actually put on the offense. You understand? You've been defending throughout the whole opening, developing pieces, stopping attacks, pushing bishops out of the corner, trying to defend pawn structures and all of these things. It was so stressful. Now your white opponent has decided to, okay, we're gonna castle. It's your move. If you learn how to attack properly, even if you're playing black, you can become on the offense and actually fight to win some games. You understand? So now we're gonna go into e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, 4, knight f6. Now the bishop didn't come out. When the bishop doesn't come out, there is a delayed part on black side when it comes to king safety. Now there's a delayed part. That bishop, when it's developed, it's not only being developed for an attack or for a defense, it's being developed so that the black king can castle in the next few moves, so that it's easy for the black king to castle. King safety. You're defending. You're black. Why did you do that? But okay, let's look at what the variation says. We play bishop to g5. This is what is called the fried liver attack. I'm sure, as you can see on the screen, I'm sure you understand, Vedem. What are the next moves? You understand? Okay. Black decides that, okay, I'm going to stop that sniping bishop. I'm going to attack and capture that one that you just brought out. Black decides that, okay, I'm still going to stop that sniping bishop, and now I'm attacking your knight. You know, your knight is undefended. White decides to go for it anyway. Okay, very brave from white. The black king decides to recapture. White comes in with a check on. Now the black king is in trouble. Remember, the king is the most important piece in the game, and if essentially the king is captured, over. So now it's so important the next move for the black king. You understand? Because if that black king moves to the g file on g8, the game will be over, I think, in the next three moves. I'm sure you can see that. I'm sure I don't need to explain that to you. But if you want an explanation, please leave a comment down below, and then I will answer you at this part of the game why the game is going to be over in the next. Right? The black king comes to the rescue, and it wants to defend uh, the knight on d5. Black white so brilliantly, so beautifully puts on the attack, puts on so much pressure. That knight can't move because of that white bishop. So black decides to play knight b4. Knight b4 says that, okay, after you capture, I'm going to just recapture with my knight, and then we'll position. You need to find another way to apply some pressure, right? But essentially, not moving that black bishop in the beginning, that would have allowed the king some safety, has now put the black king so outside of its pieces and in so much danger. White says, okay, I have some time, I have some pressure. Let me put my king to safety. Trying to defend, putting some more pieces where there's pressure. d4. d4 says that, okay, here's a free pawn. But remember, in chess, no pieces, or okay, most of the time, there's no piece that is for free. That piece or that pawn is a poison pawn. Because once black captures that pawn, now the rooks can come into play and give some checks, and then that whole center will just collapse for black, and then I'm sure it's all over. When playing the fried liver, you don't necessarily have to win the queen or the rook every time. You know, it could also be a sacrificial piece in order to bring about positions like this, whereby yes, you have been a piece down, but the king's safety now is in question for your black opponent. It's like, why has your queen stepped out so much? You understand? It's not been castled. Even if it does castle, there's no pawn structure there to protect it for future attack. You understand? So, okay, that was the fried liver attack. Just gonna go into the last variation, which is going to be the anti-fried liver. So, okay, anti-fried liver, we're gonna go e4, e5, knight f3, knight f6, e4, h6. H6 says that, okay, I am a subscriber of Lionel Chess, right? Lionel Chess taught me about the fried liver attack. So I'm gonna play h6 when you are playing an opening like the Italian game. This is an opponent that has actually subscribed to my videos and has actually gained some knowledge and now wants to play h6 in order to protect themselves from the fried liver. But remember, the rating of your opponent is so important because the rating of your opponent will say or will remind you which moves will work. It's very, very important to try something that will work based on the rating of your opponent. But again, do not underestimate anyone. Okay, gonna go in. Gonna castle. Knight f6, d4, taking the center. E takes d4, e5. I wanna get rid of that knight there. d5, saying that okay, let's exchange our pieces. Bishop b5, right? Bishop b5 saying that I'm gonna ruin your pawn structure on your queen side, or I'm gonna take your knight. Your pick. Black says, go for it. Black bringing this knight into the center, is very dangerous because you don't really know um, what is Black's next move in this situation. That white pawn looks undefended, but it actually is because it's on the king file and that knight is supporting it, and you can bring out the bishop to actually support that pawn, or you can capture with the queen in the center, and the black's knight cannot be captured because it's pinned against the king. So you apply some pressure there on that knight that's on the queen side. Bishop d7, obviously saying that even if you do capture, you're just going to have a series of captures, and all I'm risking is a poor pawn structure on my queen side. The captures happen, he captures, and then you try and get out that knight from the center. That knight moving to a very awkward square. Cannot move it back to its original square because that pawn was going to capture it. And then there's a few moves that you can play from this variation. So this was the anti-fried liver. It is so important to know it because if the fried liver is not a move that you can play, you can also play this to actually disrupt the pawn structure of black, that uncastled king, undeveloped black bishop, and then actually have some fun and try and see if you can win a game playing this variation. Okay, guys, that was it for the Italian game. I really love this opening. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this video. And I hope you like and subscribe, share it with your friends, bring your friends over. Don't forget, subscribe to chess.com. Send me a friend request, send me a few challenges, and let's play some beautiful chess together. I'll see you in the next video, guys. Take care.